Hi, my name is Amy Tiemeyer. I'm one of the hosts for Helping the Brave. And today we are going to have some of our hosts maybe coming in a little late, but I'm going to start us off. Hi, welcome everyone. Here again, I said my name is Amy. I have a veteran buddy of mine, Wes King, who is going to share with us today. So Wes, you were just asking about what the format is, so you're going to learn on the fly.
Perfect.
Anyway, so tell us, why did you pick the Army? Start off with that.
I always wanted to be in the military from when I was super young. I chose the Army, specifically the Rangers, because I had a cousin-in-law. I got one of my cousins married a guy who was a Ranger instructor in Florida phase of Ranger school for quite a while, and he was a tab guy. He was 101st in part of the invasion of Iraq and Afghanistan, and I was going through Marine Corps JROTC when I was in high school here in Kent. And he sent me a notebook when I was my sophomore year that it said, if you're going to join the military, join the Rangers or don't at all. And that was my motivation really to choose my career at that point. And so it was kind of like I didn't know what I wanted to do up until I got that kick in the butt from my cousin that put me in the direction that I ended up on. It was kind of funny. When you go to basic and then airborne and then RIP at the time, like the Ranger instructors come to airborne phase and kind of do a recruiting thing. And that was at that point when I got to know what my job truly was going to be. So I'd already gone through basic training and almost all of airborne school, and then found out, so this is what I get to do. I'm going to be in special operations and go kick indoors. This is awesome. I can't wait to do this. I hope I make it, which is kind of funny. I know it's kind of absurd to think about, but that's the motivation why.
Very good. Now, how long were you a Ranger?
So I was in the Ranger Battalion from Feb of 06 to December of 2012. I got there about after 6 months of training. Obviously, basic is a little bit longer for infantrymen when they go into the Army, and then you have to go to airborne, and then RIP. And there was about a month holdover between each of those, and then finally, I started Ranger indoctrination process on my 19th birthday. It was January 3rd, which is kind of funny. Oh, sorry, it was the day after my 19th birthday because it was a Sunday and we started Monday, so I just missed my birthday. And then ended up after that month-long course getting stationed up at Fort Lewis, luckily. And I'm from Covington, and so I was stationed 45 minutes away from home the whole time that I was stationed here. It was really, really, really lucky. With them, I served 7 deployments, 3 to Iraq and 4 to Afghanistan, all varying times, 3 to 4 months at a time. With our cycle, it was a bit more frequent. Our deployments would go for 3 months and come back for 6, or go for 4 months and come back for 8. So it was kind of a quick turn and burn cycle quite often that we'd have to go through, for at least for our deployment cycles.
Okay. So you got out in 2012, right?
December 2012, yep. And then started Central. This was on my 26th birthday. This is why those dates are kind of funny to me. I started school at Central Washington on the 3rd of January of 2013. So I got out the 22nd of December and then started school less than 2 weeks later. I got back from my last deployment in October. So it was a quick transition. If there really wasn't a transition, I was still decompressing from my last deployment when I started school as a 26-year-old with a bunch of 19-year-old and 18-year-old kids still. And so it was a pretty, it's still, I would even say today, I'm still transitioning out of the military. So it's been definitely a wild ride.
Okay. So one of the questions that we ask is, what was your transition like? So you went right from deployment to college. So did you do any of the services provided as far as transition? You did not. You
So
just
I went through the ACAP. They gave me the checklist of what I needed to do to get out of the Army. And I look at it and I got that checklist done and I didn't think twice about looking back. And at that point, I was like, I was in special operations. They teach us to be these Swiss Army knives of individuals to be able to walk into any situation and handle it. What's college? College is going to be nothing. I don't need any of the support. I didn't even file for my compensation for anything because I didn't believe I needed any of it, and which was just a mind thing, which was not true at all. It took me 6 months, maybe more, before someone that I joined a veteran softball team that was a summertime thing for the Wounded Warrior Project my first year at school. And that was like the one thing that I was around other veterans my first time after transition. And one of the guys on that team convinced me to go to the vet center and get my compensation, because that was about the time when all of the reality of what I had gone through started setting in. Because there was a phase right after where I was fine. I'd go to class, I'd get my homework done, it'd be noon, I'd be done with class, and I'd get straight A's my first quarter, right? And at noon, I'd be like, all right, well, what now? Like, I've been told what to do from school, elementary school, every day for all my time. And then in the military, I literally had every single minute of my life accounted for up until I got released and said goodbye to. And in the military, when you're bored and you're in the barracks, you drink. And so, unfortunately, that's what I started doing. And to put it into perspective for a lot of people, they're like, oh, sure, everyone drinks when they get out. But there was a bar that was next to my house that was walking distance the first time in my life. And they have this thing called Beer 101, where there's 101 different beers at this place. And if you finish all of them, by the end of the school year, they give you an entire year to do this. They throw you a graduation party. And I did it in less than a month. And it was only on Tuesday or Thursdays and Sundays that we went to this place. And so that should show you like the amount of just emptiness that I tried to fill with alcohol or substance abuse, because it just started with alcohol, and it just all that freedom was so much that I literally almost hung myself with it, because I was completely lost. I had forgotten who I was. I'd be in class with peers, and as a perspective, like a generational gap perspective story, like I went through an event overseas, and while I was serving, I was also taking advantage of college. Like, I was one of the few people that would take online classes with the tuition assistance that the Army gives you. So when I got out, I had my AA essentially already, which I thought was fairly impressive with the amount of deployments that we would be going on. The timing, we didn't really have a lot of time to do this. So, but while I'm doing this, while I'm taking these courses, I'm overseas. So one night we're going after a cell of suicide bombers. We get in a gunfight all night long. I'm literally covered. I have blood on my person from the events from the night before, and I have to go take a test, a history test. And I'm sitting in the middle of this history test, and I get a page that we're going back out on a mission because one of the other suicide bombers managed to get away. So we went back out after him. Ended up seeing another person blow themselves up in a day, and then go back and take this test, right? I go to college at Central Washington University, and some of my student peers get a professor fired because she put questions on one of our tests that wasn't on the study guide. And so I'm kind of just sitting in, right, I know. The face that you just made is the face that I'm sitting there in disbelief and shock, like, you mean she told you to read the whole chapter. You obviously didn't read the whole chapter, and that's what you're upset about, is you just wanted to read the bullet notes on what you had to get ready for the test, and you didn't want to go above and beyond like she was asking you to find out some answers that were not on a study guide. And they literally got her removed from the university because of that. And it was one of these things where I was completely in just disbelief at where I was. Like, I was where I just came from a place where people were fighting to be the best of the best and constantly trying to outperform their last personal best. Whereas I get into a situation where people want to just skate through and expect everything to be given to them without any work. And it was kind of that right there was a huge part of what made my transition so rough, is it because it made me feel like like everything that I had done up to that point was for nothing. This is even back in 2014, before the events of what had happened in the last month with Afghanistan and Kabul falling. This is me surrounded by a bunch of people that don't really know what true struggle or resilience means, because they haven't been challenged. And it just was kind of hard, and it even made the transition go even further downhill. And so what really started helping me get out of this rut, and I know a lot of this has been fairly negative to this point, but just like we had talked about before jumping on this call, service and remembering that there is something that we are here to do on this planet. And like the thing that I had when I was in the Rangers was a lot of purpose. Like I wanted to take the fight to the enemy. I wanted to defend my country. And when I got out, I lost that purpose. And it wasn't until I got a job in Chicago after I graduated from Central, and I was on the way to work one day, and I saw a gentleman holding a newspaper up. And on the front of the newspaper, it says, "Veteran gives life, giving back to community." And I was very intrigued, so I started reading the front of this guy's newspaper, real creepy like. And I saw the organizations, this place called Urban Warriors, and they took combat veterans and they brought them into the south side of Chicago, and they mentor youth. So I applied and I got accepted. And at the time I was in Chicago, away from home, kind of just lost again, still as part of this transition. And once I started doing this program and seeing just the true impact a veteran, let alone a combat veteran, can have on today's youth. Like, I'm a kid from Seattle. I'm stepping into a YMCA full of kids from the south side of Chicago, all Latino. And after sharing that story, like I just shared about the suicide bomber night, they were all ears. And it didn't matter where I was from. It's the fact that I was a person that cared, and enough to be real with them and come into their community and show that they have, there's people that care about them. And that was when the turning point for me hit, is like, okay, I may have lost who I was there for a minute, but there's still a chance for me to continue who I am and what my mission is, and that's helping people. And so taking that, coming back to Washington, I got incredibly involved with the Mission Continues and some other veteran volunteer organizations and nonprofits. Where I'm at right now with my organization, Emerging Vets and Players, I was volunteering for the Mission Continues, and the Seattle Seahawks ended up surprising me on the field and sending me to the Super Bowl in 2019 for a veteran that gives back to their community. It was like incredible opportunity. Down when I was there, I met two other veterans, Denver Morris and AJ Perez, who worked for Emerging Vets and Players. They were sent down there by the Rams. They were the two vets that were selected by the Rams to go. And it was just a happenstance thing. We met in our hotel bar, had a drink, cheers. We ended up sitting next to each other at the Super Bowl, which is super cool. And fast forward to COVID, my mom passed away in 2019, and I kind of went off the deep end again. It was like my therapist said that it was like an atomic bomb was dropped in my psyche, because all of the traumatic experiences from my 7 deployments up to that point, I hadn't done any treatment. This was all self-treated with substance abuse, and then service over self, where I dove straight into community service and helping others before even helping myself. And so while I still felt good and happy about my daily life, those underlying issues were still there and waiting to pop out. And when this traumatic experience happened in 2019, they did. So again, it was like I had just gotten back from my deployments. Like the PTSD from even losing my mom, who passed away in front of me, was in full force. I quit all my jobs, all my volunteer stuff, and just, again, went off the deep end. COVID hits. Merging Vets and Players is based out of 5 cities at this time. And just to really quickly, Merging Vets and Players is an organization where we bring combat veterans and pro athletes together. So we do like a workout and a peer-to-peer counseling session, right? Just really quickly so we understand
I
what
heard that. I also heard you're scared of me going to one of those workouts.
No, I think that people are afraid of going to the workouts because they hear the word workout, and it's at your own pace and really, really fun. We do a lot of MMA stuff. So like, we have a Muay Thai fighter that comes in Renton and teaches us some striking stuff with our elbows and knees. And I've never done any stuff like that before. So it's kind of fun. It's like, it's more about getting together and sweating and encouraging one another to push ourselves. And then it's really getting into our huddle, which is the peer-to-peer support group for the hour afterwards, hour and a half. And that's where, like I said, I had not done any treatment, not seen a counselor. I saw an addiction treatment counselor at the VA right after my mom passed away. And again, that was 2019. I got out in December of 2012. It took me that long and that traumatic experience to finally admit that I needed to go speak to someone, which is, I think if I could change something in the last 5 years or 10 years, even that change that one thing and start talking to someone way sooner. But it wasn't just the one-on-one with a therapist at the VA that helped. It was finally finding this niche group of people. And so like with MVP specifically, and I'm a huge sports fan. Like one of the things that really helped me when I did get out of the military is some of my friends that were going to Central Washington still, who were a little younger, were on the football team. And so they have a structure, they have respect, they have for authority most of the time. And because they're still college kids, but they respect military people. So when I came there, it was like I was one of them, and so that was really nice. Fast forward to 2020, COVID hits. Merging Vets and Players was an in-person thing only, where you meet at a gym and then you have your session in the gym and then you go home. But since COVID made it so that was a little difficult, it switched virtual, and so I got an invite from Denver after 2 years or a year and a half of not seeing this guy up from the Super Bowl. Like, hey, we're going to be doing MVP online. Do you want to jump on a Zoom at 7:00 on a Wednesday night and work out with us? And I go, no. Why would I want to jump on a Zoom and work out with a bunch of people in LA? That sounds dumb. And he's like, no, come on, give it a try. I'm like, okay, all right, fine. I got nothing else to do. We're on lockdown. I'm going to try this out and see what happens, right? And the first thing that happens, I jump on and I see this entire group of people. There's about 60 plus people on this Zoom that most of them knew one another fairly well, to joke around with one another. Obviously, they had been very comfortable with. I was an outsider from Seattle, but there's a lot of different services. Marines, Army, Navy, Air Force, all jib-jabbing, all trash talking, but with love. And it was really cool to hear. It wasn't like a competition, right, at this point. And so it's a very, very cool thing to step into, because for me, group therapy was not anything that I ever wanted to take a part of. When I thought of group therapy, I think of a bunch of angry combat vets that are super mad at the world, and no matter what anyone says to them, it's just not enough to fix their issues, right? And that was me. No matter what anyone said to me, it wouldn't matter, right? Because they don't know my trauma. And I think that that's something that was very important to learn, is no one knows your trauma unless you share your trauma with people, right? And to compare your trauma with someone else's trauma is stupid. And it's like to say, like, oh, just because I have 7 deployments and all of these missions, like I'm better than someone that deployed one time, that never left a fob, that didn't have to shoot their weapon at someone. It's stupid, because there's these stigmas that will grow in someone's mind, especially when they're growing, like throughout their career. Like there was a time, like when I was a Ranger, like if you weren't in my unit, then you should not even look at me. And I think that how a lot of people think when it's not like it's a rivalry thing. Like with Seattle versus San Francisco with sports, like there's this rivalry that is just this hatred between the two, but it's just a sport, right? And with the before, there was this ego that builds inside of an individual, inside of a unit like the Rangers, that does have to kind of get humbled. And for me, it humbling me was very important to hear all these other traumatic experiences that other of my peers have gone through, if that makes sense. I know I'm kind of stumbling through that, but it was very, very important to me to start hearing these other stories and listening. And I've not done a lot of talking a lot about my experiences. So to hear individuals speak about their own with pride, even if it was a story that didn't put them in the best light. And I think that's some of the things that really people struggle with when they get out of the military, or those what ifs, like, what if I did this? What if I did that to change a certain situation? And I don't think that that's something that has always, really got to me. And to hear that I'm not alone in this was one of the biggest things to help me grow. And to hear that, first, it takes you fixing yourself before you can help others. But you need a support group around you that is willing to let you be vulnerable, that will support you even if you do make a mistake, because being accountable is the first step to really making sure that you can heal, in my opinion, because it took, again, almost 8 years for me to really say, hey, I do have an issue and I need to address it. And so, like, I know that's a really long-winded answer to how was my transition, but that's kind of the full story. And I mean, again, like I said before, you even asked that, the transition for me is not stopping. And while MVP is what I do for my day job, and it is also an incredible outlet, I do a number of other outside activities from this organization that continue to help build my mental health. And whether that's supporting other veteran nonprofits like the Travis Manion Foundation. I know you and I have worked at hand in hand, scrubbing some gravestones, right? So today I go out to White River High School and I give a presentation to a bunch of freshmen. And one of the teachers goes, "Hey, that was you guys that went and scrubbed those headstones. Thank you." And so, like, there's these things that we do, as like you had said, in these small acts of service that really do make a difference for an entire community. And so I think that's one of those things that I like to really harp on people is, one, don't be afraid to try new things. So be courageous, jump into something that maybe you didn't think that it would normally help you. Like, I did a wild horse retreat for military veterans, and it changed my life. And I am terrified of horses. So it's just some of these things that you never might expect will help you. When you do these things, don't put others down for what helps them, because just because it doesn't help you doesn't mean it doesn't help someone else. And that's something that is huge. When I first started having my issues, or started reaching out to some of my former friends, they were not very supportive. And so I thought that I was wrong in the feelings that I was having, and that prolonged my attempt at growth. And I really wish that having a bunch of supportive people before, when I had the transition or was going into the transition, to help me through, that would have been amazing. But I think nowadays, with all of the programs and all these organizations that are flooding the area, it's a completely different situation than when I got out in December of 12. And with my mindset of that timing, I really think that with the stuff that we had available now, my transition would have been a lot smoother of a process. But it all depends on the person. You can have you can have all these wonderful programs, but if that person's not willing to accept that they want to fix whatever is going on, or if there's nothing that if they can't, just admit to themselves what they need to do moving forward, it's kind of hard to help them no matter what you have available.
That's true. I think, thank you for sharing that. I think that we had a female Army officer who was a JAG officer. She talked, and I asked her how she stays balanced and stuff like that. And she said, we really do need to normalize mental health. And she said that, she talks to a therapist regularly, And then she shared something else that she does that was to just kind of decompress. And personally, I do feel like we need, as a community, to stop comparative superiority. And it's like it's an interesting thing. Like if you reflect on how we judge one another, and what's the point?
Right. Well, because what the point of all of these organizations is to ultimately what? To benefit a veteran or to benefit someone. So who's to say that I'm not going to say MVP is the number one organization to save everyone's life in the country, because that's the dumbest thing I could ever say. MVP will help the people that MVP will help. Like AUSA, their Association of the U.S. Army, they have their own missions that they accomplish, right? And one of the things that is missing is a giant facilitator. And so in my opinion, instead of the VA being this, what it's trying to do is be this one-stop shop, like fit all solution for what we have are all these little niches that we've already started to fill ourselves. We need the facilitator in the center to connect all of us, to push this information out, to show what's available to the entire nation when it comes to these resources. And so, like, for me, there's a lot of competition in veteran nonprofits for funds, for members, for attention, and it does suck. And in one hand, you need these sorts of this drive to make sure your organization survives, right? But if there's a way for us to all work together to accomplish our niche objectives by supporting one another, then why aren't we doing that? And that's something that I know I've run into in my experience in the past with veteran nonprofits and just even life in general. It seems that like a lot of the time a common goal can be accomplished with just a little bit more communication, between people.
Well, and I agree with that. And I think we, like you said, we all need to participate in solutions. Like no big solution. Like we're not going to end homelessness. I don't think one entity is going to end it. Mm-hmm. We all need to participate and help out and do how we see. Yep. And I think that's true with our mental health crisis as well. There's so many different modalities and avenues to be successful, and we need to honor and support one another rather than compete and tear down.
Absolutely. And, it just is one of those things, like I had mentioned before, like we're a sport and athlete based driven organization, and that's not going to work for someone that doesn't like sports. And so for us to say that we are the better than everyone else, it's not the right thing to do. We are an option and a resource that is available to those who want to use us. And I think that that's more of a mindset that I wish a lot of organizations took, instead of, hey, you need to use me or else, or if you don't use us, then you're not. What are you even really a veteran? But it's just kind of frustrating sometimes, Amy.
It sounds like it. I think one of the things we do ask also, just to kind of take it back a little bit to you, is what do you think you use today that you learned in the military? I have an idea on myself, but what do you use?
I would have to say a lot of stuff. If it wasn't for the Army Rangers, I wouldn't be as capable as I am today when it comes to multitasking, how fast to learn a task, like, and what the steps are to do a task, project management, like all sorts of these different things that definitely stuck. But I think one of the bigger things that I learned and I continue to employ this day from the military is empathy. And a lot of people don't agree or are kind of confused when they hear this. And let me hear me out. And so when you were in the military and you're fighting, they teach you to think. They say think like your enemy, right? And think like put your feet into someone else's shoes and think like how they would fight this war against you, right? So for me, I took that as a literal thing. I started reading the Quran. Like I started studying the background of the areas and learning who truly I was living amongst and fighting with, right? And so being able to apply that in my everyday life now when it comes to basic things like, hey, like this person just cut me off and flipped me off in traffic. Maybe they have some sort of day that's not going great and they're taking it out on me because they can't control what else is affecting their life today. And I'll let him slide with a smile and a wave so he knows that he's having, to have a better day. Something, it's just a little bit easier for me to kind of understand what someone else is going through on a daily basis. And I think that really does help me when it comes to my job now, because my job is reading people and just kind of understanding feelings. And so that's huge for me, empathy.
Very good. Very good.
Yeah.
So usually my question is, do you do any service? So don't answer that because you already have. Because I'm all about, volunteering and being a part of community, but so are you. So that's cool. I guess our other question. So how do people find out about merging vets?
Employers? Yeah, it's too easy. So simply Google merging vets and players, or www.vetsandplayers.org is the website. And if you click to join, again, we're sort of combat veterans and professional athletes at this time. And so you can go check the eligibility requirements on the website and then sign up. And the emails for the Pacific Northwest go right to me. And then I'll be reaching out to whoever signs up. But yeah, all the information and videos and stuff could be located, are all located on the website. We have social media as well. They actually just did a piece on our organization Sunday morning on NFL Fox. So there's something on our founder Jay Glazer's Twitter about it. So there's a 5-minute video explaining what MVP is, if anyone would like to watch that sometime here in the next week.
Okay. And so if anybody emails info@helping the brave about merging vets and players, then I will send it on to you.
Perfect.
So Ed will probably try to add that to the information on the YouTube channel so that people can find that information. Because one of the things that we had talked about before is that a lot of times we're finding, or we felt like there's silos of information. So it could be silos, Army, Air Force, Navy, Marines. It can be silos of different service organizations, like he said, AUSA, VFW, Legions, different things like that. And so Helping the Brave is just a group of veterans nationwide, traditionally, not just me. And we just want to get information out. So we're just using our own social networks. It's not at least right now, it's not a charity. It's not anything other than we would love to help people get the information.
Perfect.
And be able to support each other. Like we've had Air Force officers that also have businesses or businesses now out after they've gotten out of service and different things like that. And that's exciting and interesting to support, I think, veteran-owned businesses and our community at large. And so we just want to be informational, uplifting, and helpful. And so the things that, you shared is start seeing someone sooner.
Yeah, I would just say that we have a couple people that are joining us that are a year out from their ETS date. And I mean, that's not too early to start planning your transition, because that year can go by very quickly. And I think that, yeah, even if you haven't deployed or gone to combat, finding a mental health professional to start talking about your decompressing after service is important, as well as taking advantage of the VA resources, or at least the transitional resources that they offer on at least JBLM here in the area and the other naval bases. I'm not quite sure how it works with their transitional process, unfortunately. But I know at least with the Army at JBLM, their transition center has gotten bigger and better as the time has gone on. So and even if you think you have a plan, that plan could go to crap within the first 2 months. And so just make sure that you use your your resiliency that you've built in the military to roll with the punches. Because again, hopefully everything goes to plan, but we all know it doesn't right off the bat. So having a couple of backups or flanking positions or fallback plans are a pretty good idea to have. So, yeah.
All right. What I will probably end here soon, but I want to thank you for your time today.
Of
I want
course.
to thank everybody else for joining us. If you join us on YouTube, please like and hit subscribe. And don't go anywhere, Wes. But that will be
Cool.
our show for today. And
Yeah.
I miss all our other hosts. Sorry, you guys couldn't make it.